You've probably heard me talking about this self-sufficient living skills bundle that's been going on, and I have been spending the last week flipping through so many of the incredible resources within this bundle. Now, I will say there's a lot. There's over 118 different ebooks and courses and lessons sharing incredible wisdom and knowledge with you so you can live off the land and you don't have to rely on this corrupt and broken system for everything for your family. Anyways, I wanted to share some of my favorite things. One, first off, is off-grid homeopathy. This course is loaded with so much incredible knowledge, talking about homeopathy for first aid, for colds and flu, how to make your own homeopathic remedies. Like, as an herbalist who loves to teach that stuff, that's pretty exciting to hear it in the homeopathy realm. There's also some incredible fermentation guides, so many other amazing herbal recipes and food recipes, and how to make your own sourdough bread, how to do your own organic gardening and canning of all of your foods. Really, there is so much. And yes, I know. I've talked about it a ton, but this entire bundle is only $50 right now until Sunday, March 24th. I'm sharing my herbal first aid skills, which is a course that's $47 on its own. I'm sharing recipes that I used when I got my products into REI for herbal first aid kits and so much more. You'll have to check it out. I'm serious. Like, you can absolutely change your life with this bundle. So there is a link in the show notes for you, and I hope you check it out. I hope you take advantage. Don't worry, you don't have to go through everything right away. You can access everything for up to a year. Once you're in the course or have the download, it's yours for life. It is a steal of a deal. Okay, self-sufficient living skills bundle in the links for you. When we draw in a breath, we share that air with all other human beings and all other life on our planet. Through respiration, our oneness with trees becomes a manifest fact, and our communion with the oceans has immediate impact. The reality of the planetary whole reveals itself with implications for all human life through the circulation of the gases and the energy of the atmosphere. This vision underlies holistic healing as much as it does ecology. The anatomy and physiology of the respiratory system is a complex and beautiful embodiment of integration and wholeness. So this is a quote from one of my absolute favorite and most referred to books, Medical Herbalism, by the brilliant herbalist David Hoffmann. And I thought it is a wonderful intro to this next podcast, where we are going to talk about a few herbs that are really beneficial for our respiratory tract and how to think about using those herbs in the best ways for you. I hope you enjoy the episode, and I am so thrilled to have you here on the Herbalist Path.
Welcome to the Herbalist's Path, where we're on a mission to inspire a movement where there's an herbalist in every home, again, with your host, clinical herbalist, Melissa Mutterspaugh.
Well, hello. Welcome back, and thank you so very much for tuning in to another episode of the Herbalist's Path. I am beyond honored to have you here and listening in. So today, I wanted to take a bit of time to talk about herbs for our lungs and respiratory tract, as we're well into cold and flu season. People are starting to get coughs, whether they be productive mucousy coughs or dry hacking coughs. It's definitely going around. Plus, there are still many of us that have been dealing with a lot of the aftermath of wildfire smoke if you're not still immersed in the middle of it. It's super clear to me that the lungs of our planet and the lungs of our body are screaming together. So there are quite a few ways to think about the way herbs work and act on our respiratory tract, and it gets pretty deep, but for today, we're just going to do a quick little overview. So when you have a cough, you can have a productive cough. So that's the cough. That's where you're producing a lot of that gnarly, nasty, phlegmy, wet, gooey stuff, which is actually a good thing because it's your body's way of removing all of the icky germs and pathogens that are causing you to be sick. So that's one of the ways in which your immune system is helping your body fight off all of the illness. So in these kinds of cases, when you've got a productive cough, you might want to consider herbs that are what are called expectorant herbs. And these herbs help your body do its job. They loosen up the mucus and phlegm and help you to expel all the yuck out, right? So you can also have an unproductive cough, and that's the one where it's dry and it's irritated and it's scratchy and it's hot and it just doesn't produce any phlegm, though you know you want to get something out, and that cough just keeps coming on. It's hot, it's painful, and you definitely feel the inflammation. So for those types of cough, you might want to consider demulcent or very cooling, coating, soothing herbs, or maybe even consider one that might have more of a cough suppressant or an antispasmodic type of herb that has an affinity for bronchial spasms that will help to relax and ease that whole coughing process. So as we get into a few of my favorite herbs for the respiratory system, I thought I would take some time to share this incredibly lovely quote that is from one of my absolute favorite books. So don't judge. My favorite book and most used book is Medical Herbalism by David Hoffmann. But I just feel like this quote really speaks to the relationship that we have with the plants and with this planet, and how it's so incredibly important that we all really just begin to wake up to this level of awareness. Anyways, don't judge me for my nerdiness, and please take in this quote from David Hoffmann. So in this book, he says, "When we draw in a breath, we share that air with all other human beings and all other life on our planet. Through respiration, our oneness with the trees becomes a manifest fact, and our communion with the oceans has immediate impact. The reality of the planetary whole reveals itself with implications for all human life through the circulation of gases and the energy of the atmosphere. This vision underlies holistic healing as much as it does ecology. The anatomy and physiology of the respiratory system is a complex and beautiful embodiment of integration and wholeness." As I read this quote, it also speaks very loudly to me, not only of our direct relationship with one another and this planet and the plants, but also what is currently happening right now with the coronavirus and how we're all sharing the same air, and how it's really important that we try to come together and help stop the spread of this virus by doing very simple things like wearing a mask when we're out and about. So I felt that as we go into some respiratory herbs and we talk about how herbs can help your lungs in various ways, how the lungs of our planet have been suffering with evidence through all of the wildfires and everything going on, and, this crazy pandemic that happens to have a great affinity for attacking the respiratory system. That we could also talk about herbs that help us with our own lungs and our collective lungs of the planet. So one of the first herbs I want to talk about is one that just makes me smile every time I think of her. And part of that is because, my niece is named after the Latin name of this plant. She's named after the Grateful Dead song. Bonus points to you if you already know what I'm talking about, but if you don't, I'll let you know. And it's Althea officinalis, also known as marshmallow, and it's not your Stay Puft Marshmallow Man or anything like that. In fact, it's this incredibly beautiful plant that grows nice and tall with these lovely, creamy, whitish, and can sometimes be pink and other colors, 5-petaled flowers, and the leaves are just so soft and tender and loving. I really love Althea and the way she can present in your garden if you're growing her. And yes, I love Althea, my niece, who, by the way, just turned 18 years old 5 days ago from this recording. Today is October 21st, so I can't believe that my first niece is 18. Not that y'all are here to hear about my niece, but I love her dearly. So I also love Althea because she's a really great demulcent. So demulcent is going to mean that she's very cooling and soothing. She's also rich in mucilage. So she's a mucilaginous herb. And that just simply means that she is going to produce this kind of almost slimy, cooling, coating effect that actually does a wonderful job of protecting the respiratory tract, which is pretty darn neato. It's great for the digestive system and various other systems as well. Mucosal tissue all over. She's also a relaxing expectorant, so can just kind of calm the spasms going on in the respiratory tract. And she's cooling, so that's going to mean that she's going to ease inflammation, and she's going to do a little bit of help to help your body expel some mucus. So for those that are dealing with a very dry, raspy, hacking cough, Althea can absolutely be a delightful friend to have on board. And I like to make a tea of the leaves of the marshmallow plant to get really great soothing benefits from that. It's super simple. If you've got some dried leaves, which I'll put a link to where you can get some in the show notes, you can take those dry leaves and do 1 to 2 teaspoons, depending on how strong you like your tea, and just pour some hot water over it and let it steep for 10 to 15 minutes and drink up and feel that love going on down. You can also make a cold infusion of the root, which is where you really get to see that mucilaginous stuff come into play, because if you take a cold infusion, you're just going to do about, play with maybe a teaspoon or so of the root and pour about 4 ounces of cold water over, or warm water over it, and place it into the refrigerator for the night. And the next morning when you go to get to that Althea, you're going to see this crazy, slimy ooey gooiness that very much resembles clear snot. And, don't be afraid that it looks like snot and feels like snot. It's actually really, really, really good stuff. That's the cooling and coating stuff that is going to go down and protect the respiratory tract. So, believe it or not, the slime in this case is absolutely your friend. And I think if you try out this experiment, it's what I think I'm going to do with my daughter lately, because she's really been into chemistry and science, and she likes to see how things change and evolve. So I think I'll play with this and talk about how it's also her cousin. So that is marshmallow, or Althea officinalis. So the next herb I wanted to chat with you about is another absolutely beautiful plant. Go figure. Plants that are not only healing, but for their medicinal properties, but healing for the beauty that they provide for our souls, which is so necessary. But this next plant, anyways, we're going to talk about is elecampane. And it's a really good friend to have around if you've got the super congested cough, where your body just might need a little extra help in getting that yuckiness out. It's particularly beneficial also for kids in the time of cough, and we'll get into some ways you can help your kids get some of it into their bodies. I think that elecampane is really cool because it's both mucilaginous, so it has that cooling, coating, sliminess effect that also has a nice relaxing effect on the cough. But the essential oils of the plant also bring about stimulation to help your body expel the mucus. So it's both soothing to the dry, irritated cough, and it helps get rid of all the nastiness in a congested, wet cough. Plus, it's got some of its own beneficial antibacterial properties to fight off various pathogens. So, I mean, awesome, right? Elecampane is a fantastic friend to have around for various respiratory conditions. I like to use the root, and I like to infuse it in honey. So the root is relatively soft, and you can chew on it. I prefer to chew on it after I infuse it in the honey because it's pretty gnarly tasting. It's got a very bitter flavor to it, which has its own medicinal attributes to it as well. But once you infuse it in the honey, it's not quite as yucky. So it's going to help to coat and soothe in really lovely and delicious ways. And plus, the honey has its own antibacterial properties and helps your body to fight off bacterial and viral infections. So you can also add that honey to your tea and help sweeten it up a bit, and just really get that overall cooling, moistening sensation into the respiratory tract. Hey, I wanted to take a quick pause to show some love and gratitude to our sponsors of the Herbalist Path podcast, who make this show possible for me and possible for you too. So here it goes. Medicinal mushrooms are all the rage these days, if you didn't know already. And with great reason, because they are powerful medicine that can improve your health and your life in so many different ways when they're well made. Yeah, it's true. There's a lot of stuff on the market that isn't going to be so effective. And that's why you need to find a brand that you can actually trust. For me, that brand is Hoffmann Wellness, and this is the creation of a brilliant woman and fellow mama, Jamie Bonfiglio. She's an international mushroom educator that has been working in the medicinal mushroom industry for years. And this is when she saw firsthand how many other companies take shortcuts when it comes to their products. And Jamie wasn't having it. She set out to build her company the right way. Hoffmann Wellness is here to raise the industry standards so those crap mushrooms on the market aren't getting into your body or your family's body. Hoffmann Wellness is the first company to test and report nutritional facts for all of their extracts. They go beyond industry standards every step of the way, from sourcing to extraction and final testing. And as the owners of the largest medicinal mushroom farm in the United States, Hoffmann Wellness is taking control of their supply chain for the highest quality and absolute full transparency. They're even the first company to include pure mycelium extract in every single product. So when you're thinking of getting medicinal mushrooms for you and your family, Hoffmann Wellness is exactly the ones you want. Also, be sure to check out their new mycolites. These are the world's first dissolvable electrolyte tablets. They're featuring functional mushroom extracts that'll give you more energy, more stamina, and recovery as well. And who couldn't use all of that? The other thing is, they are these adorable little mushroom-shaped tablets, and they come in like a little Altoids box, but way cooler than Altoids because they're mycolites. Anyways, head to wholesunwellness.com to grab yourself some mycolites and all of the other functional medicinal mushrooms that you and your family need. And of course, you can grab that link right here in the show notes now. So we just made an elecampane honey in our new Facebook group on Monday. Today is Wednesday, October 21st. So that was our first live medicine making Monday, which was just a good time. It's a really new group. So if you haven't joined us yet, you can head over to Facebook, the Herbalist Path group. We're having a lot of fun. We're going to do Show Me Your Medicine Mondays, where if you like to make your own home remedies, you can come on and share what you've created and tell people how it worked for you. And it's really just all about a community of people that want to learn how to use plants as medicine and how to play around and explore in a safe and effective manner. So I think safe is a really important thing. But one of the really funny things that happened during that live. So I'm totally getting used to how to do Facebook lives and just show up and just be there, because I really do want to create a community, right? I want you to be in that community. But it's funny because I think, for so long people have done these big show productions on YouTube or, wherever they're showing up. But now people are getting so much more real. And here I was like, cool, I'm going to talk about honey and how it's great to make herbal honeys because it's so good to get into your children's bodies. And like, I'm talking in the video and I look next to me and there's my cute little 7-year-old daughter and she's hanging out on my shoulder. And I'm like, cool, that's life. That's how I roll. My kid comes to work with me. She learns a lot about herbs. And then I look over and she's straight licking the spatula of honey on the screen, just like a lollipop, like lick, lick, lick. And I'm like, well, if that's not a learning opportunity as to how awesome herbal honeys are for getting herbs into your kiddo's body, I don't know what is, right? Anyways, if you want to have a good time with us and, learn about various ways that you can get creative making really good herbal products for yourself in your own home and join on that mission of inspiring an herbalist in every home again, you should totally join us at The Herbalist Path, Facebook, .com/group/The Herbalist Path or something along those lines. I will definitely have it linked in the show notes. But yeah, Elecampane honey is a really fun way to go. And yep, you can totally add it to your tea and use it for a wide array of respiratory illnesses. And it's just beautiful to grow too. So keep that in mind that growing your own herbs is pretty darn cool. You can grow your own medicine chest. Who doesn't want that? So anyways, back to respiratory herbs and ones that we can think about as we go through cold and flu season and various types of coughs. So another one that I love, I just feel like it's this majestic plant. I'm going to call it majestic mullein. And it's this beautiful towering plant that grows on this spike. And I see it a lot just over the hill from where I live on Mount Hood on the slightly drier side. It grows in other places too. As a matter of fact, once it starts growing wherever you are, you might want to watch it because it will self-seed and start popping up all over the place, which for me is cool because the bees and the butterflies and the caterpillars totally love it. And I know that there's just so much great medicine in this plant. And when those spikes grow up, it's got these beautiful, like creamy yellow flowers. And it's just, it demands attention and presence, right? But if you go up to its leaves, they're just super soft and fuzzy, and you almost want to snuggle them, right? It's really funny because we use mullein leaf in our respiratory rescue. And every time that we go to make respiratory rescue, it is the absolute worst tea to breathe in, and I'm quite sure it's because of those fuzzy little pieces of the mullein leaf, and it just definitely gets into the bronchioles and like creates this super irritated cough going on. I'm recording this right now in the shopping center in where my production facility is, and it's the local grocery store up on Mount Hood, and oftentimes there are dogs that get left outside. So if you hear a dog barking in the background, it's not even one of my 3 dogs, it's somebody else's dog. Anyways, it's always funny to me. Like, we wear masks anyways when we're making tea because we don't want all of those little particles into our lungs and such. But if somebody ever forgets or anything like that, they're just, they've got an irritated throat for the rest of the day, which is so funny when you're talking about an herb that happens to be an herb that is really beneficial for the lungs. Just kind of crazy. It's also a really great herb to have around during wildfire season because it's good for the unproductive cough. It can provide that relaxing bit that the respiratory tract might need, like antispasmodics, or the coughing reflex is a spasm of the bronchioles. And antispasmodic herbs specific for the bronchioles are going to help ease and soothe a cough, or as some may know, be somewhat of a cough suppressant. So yeah, it's definitely specific for when your cough is dry, irritated, unproductive, and that mucus production is not coming up so much. It does have some of the cooling properties to also ease that dry, raspy throat. So pretty cool friend to have around. And, you know, if you didn't know, speaking of the Respiratory Rescue, it's a really awesome tea that I make here in this shop, and it's all about soothing and coating your sore throat, right? And I use quite a few of the herbs we're talking about in this podcast. But I just wanted to mention, if you wanted to try that tea and see how it works for you, it's pretty spectacular blend, if I do say so myself. It's yummy and it's really effective. But you can get 15% off if you head over to mountainmells.com and find the Respiratory Rescue and use the code THP15, so the Herbalist Path, THP15 at checkout. And another thing to consider is to maybe get our Lung Lovin' Immune Boosting Kit. And you save a little money there too, because we combine not only our Respiratory Rescue, but our Immunity, which is a really great blend to help just strengthen and boost the immune system, and our elderberry syrup kit, all bundled together. So it's a pretty good way to go. And I just figured, since you're here and you're listening and you're wanting to know about respiratory herbs, that you might want to know about Respiratory Rescue and how you can get 15% off. THP 15. Anyways, this wasn't all intended to just be a commercial for my tea. I really want to teach you about these herbs and how they can help you out. So another herb that is really great, because it's probably sitting in your kitchen cabinet right now. You probably use it in quite a few of your meals if you love to cook at home. And it's thyme. So thyme has some really great expectorant properties when it comes to loosening up the congestion and the mucus. It does a really wonderful job of helping to just expel that mucus once it's loosened it up, and to open up your bronchioles in general. I like to drink thyme as a tea. I absolutely love it in a nice broth if I'm sick, to just warm me up, and I'll add in some garlic for the antibacterial and antiviral properties that garlic has to offer, and of course onions, and just basically make it this herby broth that is so soothing and really, really just lovely. I mean, you could even make a thyme honey again. Another thing I love to do with thyme and other aromatic herbs if I'm very congested is to just do a nice herbal steam. And so all you have to do for that is like put some of the herbs into a bowl. I like to use a glass bowl, and pour hot water over it, and then take a towel, and you're just going to take that towel over the bowl and breathe in the steam for as long as your sweetheart can handle it. It's really nice, and it feels great on your pores of your face too. Yeah. And I just love that thyme is so readily available in everybody's kitchen. And unfortunately, in our societies today, so few people use it for its medicinal value, though. Gosh, there's so much going on in thyme that is great medicine. And again, it's another one of those that's super easy to grow in your garden, right? Yeah, thyme. Not like T-I-M-E, but T-H-Y-M-E. It's super good stuff. I think you'll love it if you try any of the things we just talked about. So another one of my absolute favorite, near and dear to my heart things I like to use for respiratory issues is not even a plant. It is a lichen. And if you haven't heard me say this before, a lichen is an algae and fungi that have come together and taken a liking to each other. And I happen to be very fortunate. I live in some fairly dense, very healthy, luscious woods. And that is where this particular lichen loves to live. It's called lungwort. So interesting that it would be called lungwort and it being specific for lung health in our world. It's also called Loberia pulmonaria, and that pulmonary, like the pulmonary action going on relative to the lungs. If you look at this lichen, it looks a lot like lung tissue. I've got a few videos out and about in the interwebs. I can't exactly remember where, but I do share them. I'll probably put up another one soon. I'm about to develop my YouTube channel in that way, so I'll have it up there soon. But I'm sure you can find it on my Facebook page at Mountain Mel's, actually, not the Herbalist Path, maybe the Herbalist Path. Sorry. Anyways, lungwort. It's just truly amazing. And I don't know much of the science behind how lungwort lichen works, but I know that it works. And it's so funny because it was one of the first things that made me realize, so United Plant Savers, and this quote could have come elsewhere, but I like to use it from United Plant Savers, a wonderful organization you should look up, and I'll link to in the show notes. But if you listen, they will teach you. And I find it to be so true, particularly with this lungwort stuff. So way back towards the beginning of my herbal studies, I was fortunate to go to the Brighton Bush Herbal Conference, and I was on this plant walk with this wonderful woman named Jane Bothwell, who has an herb school in Northern California still, I think, Dandelion Herb Center or Herb School, something along those lines. Anyways, I went on this walk with her, and she was talking about the doctrine of signatures, and that's where I also learned about this lungwort lichen. I was like, cool. And I left that conference and I was like, oh my gosh, herbs, herbs, herbs. I want to do everything with herbs for the rest of my life. And so here I am. But a few months later, I got my first case of bronchitis. And I was sick and hacking and yucky and nasty for at least 3 weeks. And I'm the type of person that I just cannot be happy unless I'm going outdoors. Like, I love to be surrounded by nature, as I think we all might. And anyways, I couldn't stand the fact that I wasn't able to go out and play. So I made my partner, Chris, take me up this Salmon River Trail by where I live on Mount Hood, just this incredibly luscious, lovely old growth forest. If you visit it, please take your trash and don't break into your neighbor's cars. However, we went there. And, I was still sick, but I just had to get my nature fix. And I kept taking, I'd try walking, and I'd walk every 10 steps or so and just have to stop to hack out what felt like my entire lungs. And as I would do that, every time I would look down, there would be this lungwort lichen at my feet. And I'd walk 10 more steps or whatever, and I'd try and catch my breath, and what do you know? I look down, and there's lungwort again. So yeah, I'm looking down, and here's this lichen. And finally, I'm like, oh yes, if you listen, they will teach you. Oh my gosh, maybe this lichen is talking to me, and it wants me to know something. And so I'm like, I'm just going to take some of it with me home with me. And I do. And I take just a small hunk of lungwort. And the cool thing about this stuff is that it blows down after storms, particularly in very healthy, moist, dense forests, around the Pacific Northwest often. And it is actually a sign that the forest is healthy. So you can just gather it from the ground. You can do it in a very sustainable fashion. And so I take my little piece with me and I take it home and I make myself a little cup of tea and I drink the tea. And within 30 seconds, I was able to take my first incredibly awesome deep breath that I had taken in over 3 weeks. And that is what lungwort is for me. And ever since then, we've had this relationship where it just pops up right when I need it. You know, of course, I know it quite well now, and I'm very, very intimate, you could say, with lungwort. But yeah, it's just this incredible lichen. And I love that it means that I'm in a healthy forest when it's around, because it won't grow in heavily polluted areas. It is another avenue of lungs for our forest. So it's beautiful, you know. And as I go about chatting all of these herbs for you, and maybe you get some ideas in your mind, I think that it is important for me to mention to you that I am no doctor. This is not medical advice. This stuff cannot cure, heal, treat, or do anything to any of your diseases. So just know that, and that it is very important to work with a holistic practitioner, an herbalist, a naturopath, or your medical physician as you go about exploring the world of herbs and how they work for you, because they are very different. Just like you are very unique, so are the effects of various herbs on each and every individual. So these things are important, people. Anyways, I hope you did find some value out of this little podcast today. These are absolutely some of my favorite herbs to use when it comes time for cold and flu. It's not at all an exhaustive list. It's just touching on a few of them. And if you want to play around more, you should join me over at my Facebook group, the Herbalist Path group. We're going to have a lot of fun in there, playing with all kinds of herbal things, and just being a really good community of people wanting to do better things for themselves and for the planet. So hopefully you are on board with doing good things for you and doing good things for people and doing good things for the planet, because that might mean we'll hang out a bit more, right? Yeah. Thanks so much for tuning in. And I wish you an incredibly healthy and wonderful fall season. Take care of yourselves so you can take care of each other. And if you love this episode, please share it with your friends so we can make herbalism spread like wildflowers. Bye.
Thanks for joining us today on the Herbalist's Path, where we're on a mission to inspire a movement where there's an herbalist in every home. Again! If you'd like to support our mission, please subscribe, rate, and review to help others find us. As a thank you, click the link in the show notes to access a delicious and power-packed elderberry syrup recipe. We'd love to see you on Facebook, too, in our new Herbalist's Path community group. Together, we can make herbalism # spread like wildflowers. Wishing you all a lovely day. Bye for now.
It has been so much fun and so, I don't know, joyous watching all of my medicinal plant friends popping up in my garden, from the Ella Campaign to the Comfrey and the Arnica. I love seeing these friends pop up. And if you are still trying to decide what to grow in your medicinal herb garden, you've got to grab my guide. It's all about the most essential herbs that every mom should know and should grow. So I teach you how to grow them and the many different ways that you can use them. If you want to grab the guide, go ahead. It's free, and I'm pretty sure you're going to get a lot of delight and use out of it. And there's a link to it in the show notes. I'm wishing you tons of happy medicine planting.